Welcome and welcome back to HR Office Hours. I'm Maddie, your host for today, and I'm here with Kassandra Stephens, truly one of my favorite, I'm going to say mentors, and we're going to get into that as to why. But I'm Cassandra, gosh, I'm going to say 10 or so years ago. Cassandra, remind me, I think we were connected through a fellow HR practitioner, and you were instrumental in helping me out with a couple of HR trainings that I was involved in. But before we get into that, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to tell us about your work history and what got you here in your career.
I'm Cassandra. I have my master's degree, a couple of cats, and my professional trajectory is interesting. I started at business that will not be named in their collections department. It was a call center environment, and eventually I moved into training for people who were new to being on the phones. I was a part in making sure that those standards were set and writing all the material for that. After a certain amount of time, business sold to second business, and they transitioned into a more conventional call center environment. So I spent my full business week on the phones, which was not something that I was wicked thrilled with, considering how much more I had been doing prior to that transition. So I got into their quality department. I was monitoring the phone calls to ensure that they were following all of the legal and compliance standards, as well as making sure that customer service was at the forefront of each of those interactions. From there, I transitioned from quality monitoring to fraud disputes, billing errors, all of the different things that can happen with a credit card. I was in those roles for about 18 months, and then I moved into a management role over the quality team. That was a wonderful experience. I worked with several of our outsourcers in Bogota, the Philippines. So I had a pretty significant professional network. I was working with 50 or so unit managers who were my peers and dealing with disagreements regarding how calls were monitored, how the laws were interpreted and applied to different interactions. That was my first real big girl management job, is how I like to describe it. I did that for about 2 years, and then I began seeking external opportunities because that role was no longer a great fit for me, and I don't think that organization was ever going to be the right fit for me. I was seeking employment, and I found a job called a market center administrator at Keller Williams Legacy Group in Canton, Ohio. Market center administrator is weird job title, just speaking transparently. Essentially, what my role is responsible for is ensuring that the operations of a brokerage are run in an efficient and effective way, leading the team of individuals who actually make the operations happen, as well as making sure that all, as of today, 310 of my agents are satisfied with their experience, feel that they have the support of the market center behind them, and are able to run productive businesses as individual entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. And going back to what I said about why you were my mentor, when you were with the prior company, I had reached out to you because one of my operating companies that we were starting a customer accounts collections call center. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when it came to training, development, coaching, helping associates who were developing that skill set in collections, never mind the laws that we had to take into account for various parts of the process. And you were instrumental in that. And I've always just appreciated that. And I want to highlight that because we're at different points in our careers, especially 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever that was. And you were the subject matter expert. And there is no shame, right, in reaching out to someone who is younger than you in another industry, in another state, and say, hey, I need help. Can you help me with this? So, what were your thoughts when I reached out to you and said, hey, can you help me with this?
I have always been a huge fan of yours, obviously. I think you're a delight. I've never really allowed conventional rules to dictate who is the expert on a situation. Like, I, for example, know absolutely nothing about video editing on TikTok. If some 18-year-old comes up to me and says, I'll help you with this, I'm taking them. And I don't know much about repairs. So if a 75-year-old wants to show me how to do repairs, I love that. So I've always tried to personally cultivate relationships that are based on respect for different people's skill sets. I don't know how to do everything. It's valuing people for what their actual skill set and where their talents lie, and not really worrying about what the source of that is. I think it's part of why I'm successful as a manager, because I like to let people play to their strengths, and I don't necessarily allow job titles to stop me from allowing someone to really elevate their performance in areas where they have natural strength.
One of the things that I really loved was the way that you were able to explain things to me without it being condescending, but still with the depth of knowledge that I needed, right? Because there are certainly things that have to be said. All of those roles required a high level of detail orientation and project management. And I mean, just seem like compliance, quality, all of those things. But when you are training someone, you can't always deliver that training in a way that's so heavy with the minutia. And that's how you share the information with me. So, how did that evolve for you in being able to capture that information in a way that you could deliver it?
Speaking transparently, that was definitely a skill I had to build. When I first stepped into the training space, I genuinely think I was like maybe 23. And I was not what one would call natural at training others. I have always picked up on information pretty quickly, and it was not comfortable for me when people didn't have that ability. So I had to really hone in on those skills and make sure that I was treating people with the respect they deserve. It was a pretty significant journey in terms of me learning, knowing my audience, emotional intelligence, making sure that you are providing information in a way that's digestible for others. That's still something that I work on all the time. Actively practicing is the way that I learned that. I don't know that I would recommend that method. I would start with like friends and family before you did it professionally, because that created some tension in my career that I didn't necessarily love.
Actually, that method is technically called role playing, right? I mean, that is a method that we use at work, just actively
Yeah.
practicing, just in a safe environment. And that is the environment we want to create. And certainly, I would say you did create that for me, and I appreciate that.
Well,
But
thank you.
sometimes we have expectations for trainers that are not reasonable. And maybe I'm just speculating, just or projecting that you've had this experience where a problem comes up. Let's say an audit is done in a compliance issue, or you're auditing calls and a recurring problem is happening, and well, that sounds like a training issue. Get the trainers on it. What's your first instinct response to that phrase as a training issue?
I very rarely think things are actually a training issue. I think a lot of the times when people are like, "Oh, wow, we're not training these people," I think what's happening is, in a training environment, you're getting just a fire hose of information all the time. And as an adult, that's not something that you're functionally used to. Like, when you're in school, that's happening to you most days. When you grow up, it only happens really when you switch jobs or if you're going back to school. I think a lot of times what people experience as a training gap isn't actually a gap in the training material, it's a retention gap. So, making sure that the information that you're highlighting is the big deal of it. So, an example of a situation where this has happened to me, there was a policy in place. Essentially, if you were setting up a payment arrangement with someone that would create a situation where a late fee would be billed to the account, as a collections representative, you are required to inform them of that. So if you have $100 due, you're like, oh, hey, totally, I'll pay you $50 today and then I'll worry about the rest next month. If your due date falls between then and now and you're going to get a late fee, I have to say, oh, thank you so much for taking care of the past due amount. I do just need to let you know, if you don't make a payment by the 12th, your account would be subject to a late fee. It looks like for your state, that's about $37. And making sure to get your confirmation that you understand and try to get you to come back to a plan that doesn't create a late fee on your account. That is something that we would go over in training in almost exactly the way I did it. But by the time people hit the collections floor, they forgot about it because they'd been sitting in a classroom for 2 weeks and taking calls for 3 days before you let the little birds fly. So it would come back as a gap that people forgot about. Every, I would say, like 6 months, we would have a rash of people who simply forgot that that was a policy that they needed to follow. To accommodate the collections department, we would adjust how we were scoring that, or we would offer different periods of time where we were providing coaching instead of deducting the actual points. But at a certain point, it's you guys need to make sure that you're having these conversations with people as you're monitoring their phone calls on the floor before it happens with the quality department, because you have a new person on their team, how much information is currently just rattling around in there. It takes time to build good habits and get good on the phone. So make sure that you're focusing on this as much as we are when we're training.
And I agree with that. I think what sometimes happens is like, oh, we'll give them a pass. It's their first time. Well, that's the first time you're hearing it that they did not say that thing. You didn't say, hey, remember, you need to say XYZ because you need to reinforce it each and every time, especially when someone is new. I completely agree with that. I had a situation, oh my gosh. We rolled out a new learning management platform years ago. I busted it getting all of the documentation, the policies, quizzes, everything into the new platform. It was rolled out for years. When I sunsetted to put it into a new system, I noticed there was a course talking about some old point of sale system that we hadn't had in a decade, a complete module that new hires have been taking for years. And no one told me. And so I called some of the tenured managers and I was like, I'm doing this thing and I'm noticing this module here. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, we just told the new hires to just, just complete it, but just ignore it. And I'm like, you realize it was just as simple as me just inactivating the thing
Like, I literally
without
just needed to take
confusing
it.
people, without making it more difficult. And we need to create this culture of the feedback loop of, hey, you're going to catch things, I'm going to
Yes.
catch things. We just need to be able to tell it to each other, not assume it's like, oh, yeah, they made that mistake. It's no big deal. Just ignore it. Because maybe we don't need to ignore it. Maybe we just need to fix it. And maybe it's a big
Yeah.
deal, and maybe it's not. But how frustrating would it be? I don't know. If I'm at a location, I would be so frustrated just to be like, "Oh, yeah, just skip that section," each and every time
It's just
for years. But yeah. So in line with you partnering with people and networking and sharing of information, then there came a time where you needed help, and you said,
yes. I'm gonna call Maddie. I know she'll help me. Keller Williams it's a franchise system. So essentially, I am a small business with the support of a large organization. The policies and procedures are passed down from KWRI, but they don't address smaller scale issues within your market center. The agents are 1099 contractors, and we had a situation arise between two agents that one of them felt was sexual harassment. And in the course of handling that as a small business, it was not handled in a great way. We were not experienced at dealing with those sorts of claims. B, we realized we had no policies and procedures in place to deal with that. So, in talking with my boss, I was like, "Hey, I know a gal who I think could help me come up with some checkpoints, and she would definitely look at this information for me and tell me if we're in a good spot." I was able to reach out to you, and we were able to come up with a good reporting structure so that if and hopefully it never comes up again.
That's right.
If something like that were to happen, we have a well-defined process for who you report that to, what the person you're reporting that to does, and how we handle the investigations. That situation did end up costing a lot of time, and it was a lot of drama that I didn't love.
And good on you for even clocking that this was a responsibility because in some organizations, there is an assumption that if it's not an employee, these protections and requirements do not apply. But that is not true.
No. And you don't want to create liability with 1099 people. And also, we love our agents. We don't want them to leave. We want them to have a safe environment that they can come to. So we want to make sure that we're allowing them to express those concerns to us.
And that's the main thing, right? Yes, the liability, the risk management, all of that. But in the end, it really should be about doing the right thing for the right reasons for the people who we serve. At least
Yes.
that's
And
my
I
perspective.
always. I'm a very flexible manager. I like to give people the things they need. And at the end of the day, I know that nobody goes to work because they just really love the joy of accounting. They come to work so that they can afford to feed their families. It's important to create a situation, to me at least, where they feel valued and they know that that's important to me, that they have the time, the leverage to spend with their families, and that they feel prioritized as people instead of just the tasks that they're doing for me. Because while those are excellent, at the end of the day, both of us know you're here because you love your family and you want to be able to afford to live where you live. It's not for the love of the game for most people.
But even that perspective can pose its own challenges, right? Because we still have to work. We have to get work done. We have goals to meet. We have sales goals to meet. We have to make money.
Absolutely.
So, what's the balance there? How do you handle that? How do you support both of those things in a business?
It's really hard. It's where my most frequent difficult to solve management problems come from because, like, the daily operations, that's fine. We can come up with a system to fix that stuff. But the way I have to hire people who I have a high trust relationship with, which is really hard when you don't actually know a person. And the reason I have to have a high trust relationship is so they're not capitalizing on my generosity of spirit
Mhm.
in a way that negatively impacts the rest of the team. Like, yes, if your mom is having surgery and you need to work from home for a couple of days, totally. Let's figure out getting that covered. If you're working from home a day a week because you want to and it's negatively impacting the rest of the team, that becomes a management issue for me. It's definitely tricky to try to prioritize both because I never want people to feel like just a number or I don't value their time and energy at the appropriate level. It's what creates hard situations for me because in the wrong hands can create a situation where some of your staff, while supported and they appreciate what you do for them, knows that another member of the staff is taking advantage of your kindness and wants you to immediately solve that problem, and sometimes it's not immediately solvable.
I see it as a huge red flag when an organization claims we are like family because, well, first of all, not every family is functional. And
Most.
and so, that could be honestly a trigger for many people. And no, so I really prefer the term community. We are a community. We want to build community, and that's a system I can back. And with community comes a lot of responsibility and commitments to a common goal. And what does that take? In
Yes.
conversations and all of those things, kind of like what you were saying. And so yes, I'm so sorry that your child seems to be sick every single Friday beginning at 1 PM,
So
especially when
weird.
it's sunny. It's always so weird.
Sky blue flu. It's a real
It's
thing.
it's always it's always interesting. So that's a conversation, right? Because maybe other
Mhm.
team members would love to be able to leave once in a while, once in
Yeah.
at that time. So community building that. And from everything that I've seen and the communications we've had, your organization does a really good job building internal community and external community. Can you speak to that? Why you think that is?
Keller Williams does attract a person who is a good fit for that community. Our business values are God family business. So it doesn't matter what God you believe in, but that should be your guiding principle. Then it's your family, then it's your business. That set of principles really helps to find the right sort of characters, because if someone hears that and is immediately like, I don't know about that, they're probably not a great fit for us. And then it's about intentionality in creating experiences around building a community. For example, we have a charitable organization within our organization called KW Cares. KW Cares is the KWRI one. KWLG Cares is our local one. So there is the opportunity to donate to both organizations. And essentially, what the local one does is it helps our agents who are in need. We had an agent who unfortunately is no longer with us, but he had to have a double lung transplant. So our KW Local Cares was able to donate funds to him. His family received some funds, and we were able to help offset some of the costs of the funeral after he passed. My local cares director is still in touch with his widow, and it's a really valuable touch point for our community, and making sure that our agents are aware, like, if you're in trouble, we have resources for you. Please come and see us. Of course, there's some paperwork. We're a 501(c)(3), but that sort of thing. And then we really value in-person events as a way to build community. And my goal is that I know who's in the room. I try to make sure that I know all of my agents' faces. It's hard. You don't see all of them because they're independent contractors, but I try to make sure that I know who everyone is. And if not, it's a fun little giggle that we have together, but I don't know that I've met you yet.
Right.
Uh, because some of them get onboarded and then I don't see them for 3 years, but when they show up, I still want to build that connection with them. And we've talked over the course of the last 3 years, so I've seen your headshot.
Of course, it's a different sort of conversation when a conflict or a situation comes up when it's an employee, a W-2 employee, and a 1099.
Mhm. Definitely.
How do you approach those? Say, just a general situation that might come up during the course, if it was an employee versus a 1099, how do you approach it?
It's complicated with W-2 employees. It might actually be more fraught with 1099. I am sure that you've seen some of the absolute nonsense that people post on Facebook. We had, who even knows what recent event it was, but following a recent political event, we had a ton of phone calls into the market center about the way that some of the agents were choosing to use their public platforms to speak about the details of said event. Not awesome. They're also not W-2 employees, because when I hire someone, I look at them and I say, hey, so Facebook, I looked at it because, of course, I do. It's a natural part of the hiring process at this point. We talk about, you're very neutral on Facebook. I don't want to know what you think about a single thing based on your internet presence. I want to see cute pictures of your family. You can share about your wins. You can share about what you're reading right now within reason. I just don't want to be a recipient of a complaint based on your political affiliations that you are choosing to announce. Either way, I don't need to know your political affiliations. I don't want to know them. That's a conversation that I just straight up have with W-2 employees, because Facebook is a huge
Mhm.
part of the real estate business. It's a lead generation source. It's
Right.
people use it to run their real estate businesses. So I have that conversation straight up with W-2 employees. 1099, it gets a little trickier because I can't just say that. Like I if I see something crazy, I can't just call you and be like, "Hey girl, this is nuts. Don't post this." An independent contract agreement, it's different. So what we did in response was to create a social media policy that gave our broker discretion regarding whether or not posts are appropriate to be associated with the business. They are 1099 contractors, but they are still using the Keller Williams
Right.
Legacy Group brand. And that brand is something that we do take seriously in making sure that we have a good reputation in the community. It's pretty easy to build yourself a reputation in the real estate business. So we have a policy that we had drafted by one of our attorneys, and it gave our broker the right to request removal. It outlines consequences for multiple infractions. We have them all sign at the time of onboarding and had them all sign when we dropped the policy so that they're aware, like, hey, we need you to be appropriate on Facebook. I don't care if you're funny. I don't care if you're dressing up like a clown and advertising houses. That's not a huge deal to me. If you're posting things that are distasteful, we have to deal with that and we have to have some framework to have that conversation with you.
Kind of like what I was saying earlier, just community commitments, right? But that is a very normal thing. There's vendor agreements, 1099 agreements, employment agreements. So that makes sense to me. Going back, and this is kind of like one of those silly questions that I'm always interested in asking, because I find that some of the most memorable things that makes work feel good are traditions. And traditions a lot of the times revolve around food. So in the places you've worked, you've got to tell me the best snacks. The
At the last business, we had this elaborate coffee machine, and I unfortunately did not realize it made iced coffee until I was in my 2-week notice period.
Oh
So I had a gallon of iced coffee a day, just living my best life in my 2 weeks notice, because who's really working that hard when they're on their way out the
no, that
door?
is so funny.
They definitely had the snack thing down.
Okay. What about your current organization? Because they seem to have actual events, or there's some go-to vendors even as part of your traditions and events that you're like, oh, we must always have this thing for food.
Oh, so one of our it might be my favorite event of the year. We have a monthly team meeting where we go over a little bit of information about real estate. We talk about what we have coming up event-wise for them to learn at. We do that normally every month, and then we provide them with lunch afterwards. In November, we have a dessert auction, and that the proceeds from that benefit our local cares organization. So they get 100% of the proceeds from the dessert auction. It's a great time. But we have that immediately following our team meeting. So we do, great job, you guys. These are our new agents. Say hi to them if you see them. Congratulations to our top producers. Give yourselves a round of applause. And let's have a wild dessert auction. I think our highest bid this year was like
Wow.
$450 for a set of cheesecakes. Like it gets serious, and some of my agents are incredible bakers, so it gets intense in there. We have a team of auctioneers who do it every year, and they're hilarious.
Oh, wow, that sounds
We've always done it in our office, but we're finally at a point where I was like, okay, guys, let's rent somewhere because we have too many people to shove into our training room. We had, I think, 120
wow.
show up. So it gets serious. It's very competitive, but we do a Thanksgiving feast and dessert auction, and it's a great time every year. And we build a lot of community that day.
I'm to presume then that that high level of engagement means that you must be doing something right as far as the way you are engaging people. Because when you have voluntary things like that, people don't have to participate.
They don't, and 1099 contractors really don't. It's a constant conversation that we have with our partners, with our agents, like, hey, yes, we want to support you. We want you to be able to have classes, all of that good stuff. But also, it is hard to get people's attention. You have to have a clear value proposition. And also, you would not believe the impact that a personal invite to something can have on someone. Like, if you take time out of your day to invite them somewhere, they're a lot more likely to show up. We have a lot of strategies that we suggest in terms of building relationship, in terms of like individually inviting people to things you want to see them at. My tech trainer is really great about this. She will organize a class. She recently did an AI 201 and an AI 101 series, and she sent text messages to people and was like, hey, you remember when we were talking about using AI to do X? You should come to my class. We're going to do a little bit more on that. So, making it personal, expressing why it would add value to them or their clients, and making them feel seen at the same time. Because, like, I still think about the fact that we talked about this
Yeah.
is something that makes people feel
Yeah.
valued. We try to make sure that we are personally reaching out and personally telling the value story for these events. And a lot of it's just in person, like, hey, have you looked at the calendar? We have a class. So it's important to do personal connection to build relationships. And the other thing that we're really focusing on this year is building smaller communities within our big community, because 300 that's a huge amount of people.
Hmm.
But if we can set you up with like 2 to 6, you feel really supported and seen in the market center. And beyond making that connection and arriving if you guys need us, that's not something that's a huge time burden. Like, I know Agent A, I know Agent B. I think you guys have a lot in common. You should get coffee. So those sorts of connections just create so much value for people, and knowing who people would vibe with
Hmm.
is an important skill when you're trying to build relationships.
Sales organizations are different, right? And real estate realtors, it's a
Yes.
sales organization. So that's just a different vibe, a different way that people function, just the general competitive spirit of it, usually friendly. But how do you support the folks who, even though they have those traits, maybe they don't want to participate in those extracurricular things. That's not their vibe, even if they are good producers, because that can happen too. And they need to feel supported too in that choice, especially if it is voluntary, because they're 1099 contractors.
And some of those people you just don't see. Those are the hardest ones. We're always worried that those folks are not as sticky to the organization, so they might be more attracted to like an EXP model where the brokerage is all online, they don't have in-person stuff, you can pretty much just run your business from your office. So keeping in relationship with those people is what's really important. We go through our roster and we identify who those people are, and someone who's built some rapport with that person will generally reach out. So like, my broker is fantastic. He's often a really great touch point for agents like that, because while they may not have any desire or need to attend a training class, they'll come up with something on a contract every now and again that they need to talk to the broker about. So Rich will reach out. We also have a team leader, and his primary responsibility is to make sure that agents have the tools that they need in order to build bigger businesses, if that's what they want. Some people don't want a bigger business than the one that they currently have. So for those people, we can connect them with an agent who is looking to build so they can do some referral agreements. So it's again the personal touches. The touch points are what adds value for our agents, and making sure that you can prioritize that when someone's right there is huge.
Was that understanding a skill you had to personally develop, or even as the organization, did they have to develop that to understand, look, everybody's a little bit different and not try to like, I'm going to win this person over. I want to get them in this event, in this training.
It comes with time. When you first start, you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get this person. She comes to this class," but a lot of the times they're not gonna show up, and the ability to depersonalize that is important. And figuring out how you can still add value from that experience without them having been at it is the real skill there. So, like a 2 paragraph email, maybe some bullet points, to be like, hey, we learned X, Y, and Z, thought of you. If you want to talk about it more, give me a call. If not, here you are. So it's giving them the key to how they'd like to handle that and making sure that they feel that they're still getting access to the resource. You thought about them. It still builds that same value even if they don't show up. Because you're still expressing to them like, hey, you matter to me. I was thinking about you. Have some stuff.
Have you had it happen, um, where this has led into folks trying to utilize you and that's cross boundaries into like, I'm not here for that. In your own off hours that are not work related in a way that you're like, that I'm not equipped to deal with that.
Not a ton.
That's great.
Personally, I'm a bit of a psychopath about who has my phone number, which makes it really easy to control people being able to contact you outside of work hours. Not everybody needs your cell phone number at work. It's never been a thing for me. Like, my direct employees have always had my phone number, but different managers in different departments have never needed my personal cell.
And again, that goes back to that communication of appropriate commitment setting in a community that is healthy. So, what attributes make people good candidates for your work environment then?
I think the attributes that make you a good candidate are being earnest, which can be hard to tell with someone in a job interview because hopefully most people are arriving to a job interview with a spirit of earnestness. You want to be here. But I think what I mean when I say that is, do you genuinely want to be the best that you can be? Are you earnest about succeeding in your role? And I think what that translates to attitude wise is people know you care. Like, I make mistakes all the time. It's not a huge deal if you're a person who's like, oh my goodness, and then you fix it, or you tell someone how you're going to fix it. I can't control what I know at the time. I can't control things going wrong with systems. What I can control is I'm going to get this taken care of. And I think that spirit is ultimately how you determine how successful someone's going to be in the environment I've created, at least. Because I'm never going to like scream and yell because you made a mistake. But if you come up to me and you said, hey, I really messed up, my first question is going to be, ooh, what are we doing? How are we fixing it? Because that's an opportunity. And really, mistakes, when handled well, build trust. Like, oh, wow, I'm so sorry we made this mistake. I fixed it for you. And this is what I've done to solve it going forward. Those sorts of things, when done correctly and executed well, can help build trust with people because you've acknowledged that what happened wasn't right. You've fixed it. You've created a solution and you've communicated all of that with them. That can actually be one of your best, like, this is a great person to work with moments.
I agree.
Or,
I have a spiel I tell all new hires when I onboard them, and I say that we prove who we are when we get it wrong, and we will get it wrong because we're human. And
yes.
and and then we walk through what that looks like. Okay, here are the reporting things for the petty and slight things that happen every day. We will get on each other's nerves. When that happens, this is the approach. Go to your supervisor. Don't if you have to come to me, I guess come to me. But really go to your supervisor first. Anything escalated,
Yes.
absolutely come to me. Go to a manager, all those things. But we will get it wrong. Hopefully in the petty, slight, minor things and just getting on each other's nerves, right? But it will happen. Why will we
Yeah.
think that it won't? We're human and give us a chance to fix it. And it should never happen again. At least not the same way.
Indeed.
And that's the
Yep.
so
I can't promise that every system's gonna work the same way every time, and sometimes things do happen twice. But that point 2 opportunities to fix it and make it.
Let's replicate that error. So, yes, we prove who we are when we get it wrong, and we just need to be honest with each other and say, "Hey, most of us do get it right more often than not." And we go into it
Definitely.
wanting to do that.
Yes. And I think wanting to do things well makes it worse when you do things wrong because you feel it so sincerely. And I love that energy, but also don't beat yourself up. You've got an opportunity to fix something with someone, and that will make them appreciate that you took the time to care about their
That
problem.
is
How do you find people who are a good fit for your environment?
I'm very honest in my conversations with candidates. I tell them I want to go over the logistics. The reality is, for most people, I want to know about the work vibe. I want to know about the work hours. I want to know about the pay. I even want to know about what the work building looks like. Like in one of my facilities, the main one is 2 floors. We do not have an elevator. Yes.
Yeah,
Do I even want to
that's the
go
thing.
up and down those steps every single day if my work is on the second floor? Disclose those things that may be deal breakers from the very beginning, and then we can go from there. I do not believe in overselling a role. That doesn't mean that I'm underselling either. I am saying I'm highlighting, yes, all the good things about the role. And then I'm like, hey, might this be a match? Let's decide together. Might this be a match for both of us? And being very candid
Yeah.
about what this is going to be like. So it's really just like, hey, let's just have a conversation about what this specific job is. Might it be a match? And go into it like that. But if the work hours don't work for you, it's not a moral failure. It doesn't make our
No,
job opportunity a terrible opportunity. It doesn't make
it
you
makes it the right thing,
inflexible, it just is it's just not aligning,
and that's okay.
and that's okay. So, I think it's just setting those expectations from the very beginning, which is a challenge because we're also a sales organization. So, the tendency for a lot of hiring managers, I think, is to do that sales speech of, "How do I convince you to come work for us?" And yes, there's a little bit of that because we're proud of the environment that we have. But also, we're proud because we're already here and we know what it's like.
Yes,
So,
and we know
it's different when you're a candidate because
the organization is still a stranger.
yes, and you really can't convince someone, I don't think anymore, just on a conversation of, "We have a great place to work and we have snacks," which we do have snacks. A good candidate at this point also is someone who is eager to learn and understand that, hey, you do carry experience from other places, but just be open-minded and hear us out when we are training. That is still a very difficult thing to overcome. We have our experiences or our traumas from our prior employers, and we have to try to set those aside so that we can gain and retain new information, and that's a challenge. It's a challenge for me too.
It is.
So, it's kinda like sussing that out of,
Yeah,
can you do that? Are you at a point
yeah.
in your search where you can actually do that? And not everyone is.
It's interesting that you mentioned that maybe it's not the right role. When I first interviewed with my boss, it was for a different role that now that I know, yeah, I mean, I could have learned how to do it, but I'd have also been exhausted by 2 p.m. every day because it's not a good fit for my skill set. But she asked if she could keep me in mind for when she had my role available, and it became available about 6 months later. It was good that she saw in me the potential to succeed in the environment, but not in the role. And then we had a very honest conversation about like, "Hey, I think you'd actually hate this, but I do really think that we could work well together." And she was totally right. Like great instincts. 10 out of 10. I love her. But it's interesting, and a lot of people would hear that and be like, "Oh, she's never going to call me." And there was a part of me that was like, "Oh, okay." But then she did. So it's important to handle things that don't work out the right way.
I have had those conversations too with folks during those preliminary conversations. If they tell me I only want to work X hours, or there's a hesitation, right? But When we're looking for work, sometimes we want to say things in a certain kind of way, but there's a hesitation. And I push for them. Do you really want to work these hours? Because these really are the hours. There's no flexibility. Maybe later I may have this other type of role come up, and those hours might be better for you because we don't have the flexibility in this other one. So just being honest with folks is really, really important. So
Great. Love it.
it's been really, really good. And I've learned so much. It is nice to be able to have a conversation about what is it that we actually do. In the end, I think people do not care about what our title is. If they say the gal in
No,
the office who helps me,
they know.
they know. To them, it just means you're the person who helps them, you're the person who they can turn to at every moment, and they know that they have your support. We have different aspects of our roles that we need to highlight. And I do think that building a community and culture is great as long as the people who are part of that actually are receiving what you are putting down.
Yeah,
Organization, it sounds like Keller Williams does put a lot of effort in making sure that they partner with people who make that a priority. So I'm really glad to learn that.
I think it's something that's really prominent in all of our trainings is making sure that your customer feels supported and you're building good relationships with them because we do believe that real estate is a relationship business and it is the biggest purchase that people make in their lives. You need to care about them a little.
That is true. So if someone is in your particular geographical area, tell us what that area is. And if they are looking for a home or whatever services, or give us a breakdown of what your office can help with, and hey, give it a go.
If you call Keller Williams Legacy Group, we can connect you with an agent who can help you as far east as Youngstown and as far west as Mansfield, which is it's most of Northeast Ohio. If you're anywhere near Cleveland, we can probably help you.
Well, there you go.
Um,
So if you're looking in
so
Cleveland area, Ohio, hit Cassandra up. She can hook you
well,
up with someone that can help you. Well, this has been so
absolutely.
great. Cassandra, this is great. Maybe we'll get to do it again. Until then, I thank you so much. And to our listeners, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And we also have a community tab if you want to add your comments and exchange info with each other. That would be fantastic. Until next time.